Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the #1 DraftKings prep show in all of the land. I am your host Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this very episode, we're going to be breaking down all 12 fights from a DFS, DraftKings perspective. Coming up, UFC Vegas 53, headlined by Rob Font and Chito Vera, if I could remember this properly. So before we get into it, guys, thanks a ton for joining me. Please hit that like and subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell so you never miss any DraftKings videos coming up for any of the cards the UFC has to offer. Also, be sure to check out teamriseorfall.com. If you play DFS contests of any kind, tournaments, cash, double ups, blah, 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 you name it, heads up, get over to teamriseorfall.com and check out what we have to offer. We have experts in every single sport, even the ones that you don't think have DFS. They have DFS too, and we have guys and girls over there that are going to help you win those tournaments. Tons of tips and advice in the Discord, tons of lineups, tons of free plays, etc. Get over to teamriseorfall.com and start making some money, you guys. Lastly, be sure to check out the MMA Engine over on YouTube and Twitter. Subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout. We have content dropping every single day leading up to these UFC cards, guys. It's me, it's Brady, it's Wheezy, and it's Lou Betya. We are killing the game over there. So be sure to subscribe to the MMA Engine. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it, guys. Let me ditch this keyboard. Don't need that anymore. First fight of the night, if I could find my cursor. There we go. Newcomer Tatsuro Taira going against Carlos Candelario. This one's going to be pretty simple to break down. I have no fights for Tatsuro Taira. He looks like a killer in his fight footage, his fight tape. Absolutely ridiculous. He, 5 sub wins, 8 wins by TKO. Looks fantastic on tape, so be sure to do your fight tape because he is pretty enjoyable to watch, but I have no stats for him, you guys. Carlos Candelario, his name is in yellow because he is a Dana White Contender Series fighter. 1-1 in the DWCS. He did have 2 fights, I believe. Season 1 and then season 5 as well. He scores okay, 3.82 points per minute, allowed 4.48. That is a huge red flag right there. Only scores 71 when he won, so it is a bit questionable as far as finishes go. 5 of 8 of his professional wins have come by way of finish. But he's also, dropped a fight in his career and has not put up a huge DraftKings score at all. If you would put the DraftKings scoring system onto the Dana White Contender Series fights. He's given up, over 100 points in his loss. 2 takedowns, 2 points per minute in takedowns is what he's allowing Candelario. So not a great look there. Kind of getting outscored from pretty much everywhere. Like I said, not much to say about this one. I don't have a ton of stats, but strength of schedule for Carlos Candelario leaves a lot to be desired. You want these numbers 70 to 75. We're at 46 or 47, sorry, strength of victory, 58 strength of schedule. So that is very, very low. In fact, Tatsuro Taira's is better by about 10 points at least. Pretty much every category, and he is undefeated professionally. So again, be sure to do your fight tape, guys. Here are my projections. Whoever you think is going to win, here's how I think it will finish. And then my DraftKings visual statistical recap. We can skip the graph because we have no fights for one of the fighters, so we have nothing to compare it to. And then the aggregate finish percentages in wins and losses. 72% of both gentlemen's fights have come by way of finish. In their wins, I should say, and neither has ever been finished in a loss. Candelario is the only one with a loss, so just one there. I'm going to be leaning Tatsuro Taira. We don't have a lot of, we have no stats for him. We have no UFC fights, but his tape is pretty fun to watch, so be sure to do that. I'll have him rostered in a few fights. In a few lineups. He is a newcomer. I don't like to go too heavy on those guys. I'll probably have somewhere in the realm of 20 to 30%. And Candelario, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to him at all. $7,000 is very cheap. Maybe I'll get to a couple of him in lineups where I need some salary relief, but I'm liking Tatsuro Taira here for cash, GPPs, etc. Like I said, 20 to 30% or so. Second fight of the night, Gina Danger Mazany going against Shanna Young. This is a women's flyweight fight. It'll be pretty quick. I'll basically be playing none of Shanna Young. She's $7,300, 1.29 points per minute so far in the UFC. her UFC career. And that's over like 22.5 minutes. She's allowing 5 points a minute, you guys. It is ridiculous. I'm not going to be playing probably any Shanna Young this week. Mazany scoring extremely well. 5.03 points per minute is her current pace in the UFC, second highest on the card. And that incredibly high number is what Shanna Young gives up defensively. So that aligns perfectly. Mazany, 127.88 points per win. She only has 2 UFC wins. So 2-5 in the UFC, not a great look. Shanna Young 0-2. You know, quick math, these women are 2-7 in the UFC so far. So not expecting a ton. And Gina Mazany is $1,100 over. I feel like I'm squinting it. $1,100 over. Oh, it's too bright. Her average salary. Women's flyweights do make the optimal. You know, somebody from the women's flyweight fight makes the optimal 56.86% of the time. That is the best weight class possible as far as optimal goes. Mazany, like we said, you know, this fight's pretty simple. I'll be playing Gina Mazany a little bit. She's 8,900, so a bit expensive. But that pace and that points per win is incredible. And Shanna Young, there's no way. I don't see how she wins this fight. I mean, anything's possible. We just saw Mike Jackson and the $6,700 salary make the optimal by way of DQ. So anything's possible. But give me the upside of Gina Mazany. I mean, 1.57 takedown points per minute, 0.78 control time points per minute, and Shanna Young is allowing over 2 points a minute in grappling for her opponents. So give me the huge upside of Gina Mazany. The strength of schedule is the last thing I wanted to look at, well above Shanna Young's strength of schedule. I mean, Mazany, her only win in her last 5 is against Rachel Ostovich, so definitely nothing to brag about there. Here are my projections, pretty high for Mazany as you would expect. And then the professional career finishing percentages. Decently high, especially for a women's flyweight fight. So give me Mazany. 8,900 could be a sneaky little play here. I'm sure she will be. You know, it's not going to be too sneaky. But, you know, a lot of people just avoid women's fights in general. I don't, especially women's flyweights. And especially ones where they score 5 points a minute. So give me Mazany. Probably like 20 to 30% again, like the last fight. I'll have no Shanna Young. I don't see how she gets it done and puts up a huge score. So that's what I'm thinking for that one. Next fight, Mike Breeden going against Natan Levy. Both gentlemen 0-1 in the UFC. Mike Breeden, 7,200, scoring only 1.8 points per minute, allowing 13.53 in his UFC debut, which lasted just over a minute. He is $400 over his previous salary. Natan Levy, 2.47 points per minute, so not great, but still well over Mike Breeden's pace. 4.21, what he's allowing per minute. Scored or allowed 93 when he lost. Mike Breeden allowed 108. He lost. So one of these guys has to win this fight, whether they like it or not. Levy, $500 over his average salary here. So we're paying up for both guys, which, as you know, is something I hate doing. This is an interesting, very, pretty low level fight here. I mean, Levy giving up 3 points a minute in grappling against, who was it? Yeah, Rafa Garcia. And then Breeden, I mean, all of his points that he's given up have come via striking in the stand-up game. Whose strength of schedule is better? Here's a couple of stats as well. Strength of schedule is going to go to Levy, but it's kind of close, and they're both terrible. Yeah, Hernandez, or Breeden, excuse me, getting knocked out, finished by Hernandez in the first round, and then Levy taking Garcia to a unanimous decision, but not a very close fight. He got 7 takedowns landed against him. Yeesh, do your fight tape on this one, guys, if you're playing this at all, especially on the Breeden side, because I don't really know what he is going to be offering. If he has any kind of takedown game whatsoever, I will be playing a little bit of him just because, Levy got taken down 7 times by Rafa Garcia. But Levy also scoring very well in his first fight. Let's see. What did he end up with? 37 and a loss, so not too bad. He landed 3 takedowns of his own, controlled 5% of the fight, etc., etc. Here are the finishing percentages. I'm leaning Levy just because, I mean, how could you lean Breeden from how he looked in his last one against Hernandez? I'll be pretty low to this one probably. Either of these guys could get finished. Well, actually, Levy's never been finished in his 1 UFC loss, and Breeden has been finished two times professionally. So not too high finish rates, but this one seems pretty low level. So, which means high variance, which means I guess you got to play both sides. I'm not confident in either side for BPPs or cash, but I'll probably have a little bit of both just because, like I said, very high variance. You don't know what's going to happen. I'll probably have a little bit more of, God, I already forgot his name, Levy in that one, but yeah, doesn't look good. Next fight, Gabe Green going against Johan Lainesse. UFC newcomer here. Did have a Dana White Contender Series fight that he did win, scoring 8.73 points per minute and allowing only 0.74 back at him. His fight did last just over a minute and a half, and he would have ended with 104.15 points. Gabe Green, 1-1 in the UFC, has made the optimal lineup in his one win. 4.22 points a minute, so a very high pace and a ton of points coming back at him. 4.14 points a minute. Scored 105 when he won and gave up 105, almost 106 when he lost. So it is bang or bust for Mr. Gabe Green. Let's see here. What else do we got? Just a little bit of scoring breakdown. So Gabe Green allowing 0.87 points per minute just in grappling, which isn't bad. But then you look at Lainesse in his one Dana White Contender Series fight, he scored 1.2 control time points per minute. Yes, that only lasted, like we said, over a minute and a half. So a bit skewed, but still. No takedowns, but a ton of control time. And most of those points per minute came via his knockdown. So that is a huge, a huge part of his scoring. 6 points per minute is just in that knockdown. Obviously, if the fight goes a little longer, that is going to get stretched out a bit. Here are some stats, relevant fight stats. And then the strength of schedule is actually pretty good. For Lainesse, for a UFC newcomer, almost 70 in every category, 65 strength of schedule. Gabe Green, bit better all around, except for the strength of victory, within a half a point though, and a 71 strength of schedule, 76 opponent win percentage. Fantastic. Gabe Green losing his, much like Preston Parsons last week, losing his UFC debut to Daniel Rodriguez. That is a tough look to have to fight Daniel Rodriguez in your UFC debut. I would not wish that on too many people. Here are my projections. Very high for Johan based on his 8 points per minute, potential that he showed in the Dana White Contender Series. Obviously, this is a big step up in competition, so we're not expecting, 8 points a minute. I'm going to have to do my tape on this one again. I just haven't seen enough of Gabe Green. The stats don't tell me a big enough picture. I guess I'm going to have to be on both sides. You have to play the Gabe Green side. First of all, you have to play this fight because 8,500, 7,700 is the best salary pair you can play, with one of them making the optimal lineup well over 50, I think 56% of the time. Something crazy. Actually, no, it's like 62. Something really high. But you have to play both sides. You have to play Gabe Green because of the variance on the Johan side. He's a UFC newcomer. So automatically I'm, knocking him down a couple of rungs, because he has not competed at this level. So I'm giving Gabe Green the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, Gabe Green only has 2 UFC fights. That's hardly any experience at all. Only has 3 or 5 fights more than Johan has professionally. So, and Johan could absolutely come out and finish Gabe Green. So you have to play both sides. I guess I would rather have both these guys in GPPs. Give me Green and cash too. But I just don't know enough about Johan to put him in cash. Great salary pair though. Great salary pair here. I guess I'll be exposed to 30 or 40% of this one total. I'm not gonna go too over the top on this one because it is a very low level fight. Again, high variance. Next fight, I'm not spending a ton of time on this, guys. We broke this one down last week, and it is a Chase Sherman fight. If he makes it to the octagon, we have Chase Sherman against Alexander Romanov. These salaries, I forgot to erase them. They are not accurate that I know of. DraftKings has not released salaries for this fight, so I just put these in here of what I think they're going to be. Romanov could be 9,600 again. Who knows? So these salaries are not accurate just for this fight, as they are not technically released yet. So I'm not going to play any Chase Sherman. You can look at these numbers if you want. Look at the huge pace from Romanov, huge points per win for Romanov, and very low points for Sherman. He does score well when he wins, but he is 3-8 in the UFC, probably about to be 3-9. I love Romanov here. If he is 9,600, I'm going to be playing way less of him than than if he was, say, 9,500, like it says here. If he's 9,500, I'll have him in like 70% of lineups. If he's 9,600, I'll have him in about 20% of lineups. More cash for sure. I think Romanov is great for cash. He's great for GPP. I will not be playing Chase Sherman whatsoever. If you want a more in-depth breakdown, I did one for UFC Vegas 52, but there's really not much to say about this. Chase Sherman only fighting this fight so he could sign another UFC contract. So he's not here for this fight. He's here for the next 3 afterwards. I'll just keep scrolling. Like I said, not playing any part of Chase Sherman. Romanov, my exposure to him will depend on his salary. 9,600 is too high for any fighter, so I would drop him to about 20% if that's the case. But if he's below 9,600, my exposure will jump to 60, 70% probably, as I do expect Romanov to finish Chase Sherman inside the distance. Next fight, let me take a quick water break. You should get some water as well. And while you're doing that, just take your right hand, click, grab that mouse, click the like button, click that subscribe as well, guys. I'm less than 20 away from 250, and we're trying to hit 250 before the next pay-per-view. So please help me out. Hit that subscribe. Thank you so much. Let's go. Francisco Figueiredo. Little Figgy going again, or is he Big Figgy? I can never remember. I think he's the older brother. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Going against Daniel Lacerda, aka Daniel Da Silva. Da Silva is 0-1 in the UFC, 8,200. Again, this is a very low-level fight, guys. I am not impressed with either guy. Francisco Figueiredo, $8,000. He is $700 cheaper than his average salary. 1-1 in the UFC. 2.84 points per minute, allows 2.67. Scored only 76 when he won, allowed only 80 when he lost. Over on the Da Silva side, in his one UFC fight, he did lose, scoring only 2.05 points per minute in just over 5 minutes and allowing over 8 points a minute, guys. My goodness. I'll probably be on the Figgy side here, but I am not confident. Just that 8 points a minute allowed from Da Silva is a crazy number. Let's see here. Not much stats for either guy, as we only have 3 fights between them in the UFC. Da Silva allowing 1.07 control time points per minute, while he's scoring only 0.29 points a minute. Did get knocked down, so that has a bit to do with that 8 points a minute. But if you take that out, he's still over 6. Is he? Yeah, he's still well over 6 points a minute given up. 5.3 points a minute just from striking. That is horrendous. Figueiredo on the other side doesn't even score 1 point a minute via striking. He is much more of a grappler. 1.68 points per minute scored via grappling. He's given up a ton though too. 0.76 back at him. So not a very, he's allowing points, he's scoring points. He's just, you don't know what to expect from him. Give me Figueiredo, I guess. He's cheaper. Both of these guys between them, 13 submission wins, 1 submission loss. I mean, the strength of schedule is dog shit. Dog water, is that what we say? Is that what we say now? My kids told me that this weekend. I'd heard it before, but not in a while. And they're out here calling me dog water. Can you believe it? Ugh. But anyway, the strength of schedule is dog water, which, how is dog water bad? Dogs need water to live. You're supposed to love your dog. You got to give your dog water. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a boomer. Figueiredo losing to Malcolm Gordon, beating Jerome Rivera, and Da Silva losing his debut against Jeff Molina. Here are my projections and the scoring graph here. Pretty good for Figueiredo. Above his opponent, just barely, and trending up. Opponent also trending up, not what you want to see. Here are the projections. 30 plus points higher for Figgy in his decision win projection. Graph can't even read because we have less than 2 fights for Silva, so there's nothing to compare it to. And then the aggregate finishing percentages for their professional and UFC careers. Very high in wins. 91% of their professional wins have come by way of finish. 66.67% of their losses also coming by way of finish. Again, guys, high variance fight. Keep your caps lower on this one. I mean, I'm going to have trouble getting to 20% of either guy. I'll probably be more on the Figgy side, but I don't like that. 76 points in a win, 2.84 points per minute. It's more of a fade to Daniel da Silva than anything, but at the same time, Francisco kind of isn't that good of a fighter, so da Silva could absolutely come out here and, catch Figgy, finish him somehow. You got to play both sides. Don't go crazy. I mean, like I said, 20% of each probably. Ugh, even that's a bit much. I don't know. That's a tough one. Do your fight tape on that. Again, these low level, you know, high variance fights, I just don't see. You just got to play both sides. Sorry, I'm distracted by something I decided. Next fight, Gerald Meerschaert, GM3 is back going against Krzysztof Jotko. Interesting fight, middleweight fight. Meerschaert 7,400. He has made the optimal lineup in 2 out of 3 fights, 2 of his last 3 fights, I should say, and he is $440 under his average salary, guys. 3.26 points a minute, 94.74 points per win. He has given up a pretty decent pace and a ton when he loses, but this is like playing, Paul Craig, kind of. Meerschaert's going to get beat up and beat up and beat up until he subs you. That's just how it is. He has 26 professional wins by submission, 8 in the UFC by submission. Can you believe that? Krzysztof Jotko has been finished once by sub in the UFC. He is $8,800 this week. 2.69 points per minute is what he scores, 79.58 when he wins. That is an extremely low number, less than 80 points per win, and he has 10 UFC wins, guys. So this is a good sample size. 80 points per win. I'm going to be fading Krzysztof Jotko this week. Defensively, he is pretty sound, allowing only 2.02 points per minute, 85 when he loses. So pretty decent there. In fact, very decent. But still, he has no offense whatsoever. I mean, he did put up 126, or he's averaging rather 126 when he wins by knockout. But most of his UFC fights, 11 out of 15 have gone to decision. So that is what you can expect here. Only 2 of Meerschaert's UFC fights have gone to decision, and he has 15 of those as well. So kind of the complete opposite. Gotta love the upside of Meerschaert, right? He has been knocked out 3 times in his career, or in the UFC, but again, Jotko, 6 wins by knockout TKO, but only 1 in the UFC. So I'm not expecting a ton of fireworks on the Jotko side. I'll have a very low exposure to him, none in cash, 0% in cash. He's far too expensive for his output, and that huge 15 fight sample size. GPPs give me a little bit of Jotko as I keep scrolling here. But I mean, Gerald Meerschaert scoring over a point per minute, 1.1 points per minute, or sorry, 1.2 points a minute. 1.2 point. What is this? What is happening to me right now? 1.22 points per minute, what he is scoring via grappling. So Jotko allowing over 0.7 points a minute. Geez, man, I'm having trouble this morning. I am struggling. Let's see, Gerald Meerschaert's strength of victory. Both these guys' strength of schedule are fantastic, but Meerschaert is a bit better. You got to give him the edge here by a couple of points. 6 points in strength of victory, so a decent look there. Has lost 2 of his last 5 fights. One of those is to Khamzat, so that even count. Jotko did drop 1 of his last 5 to Sean Strickland. Here are the raw DraftKings points per minute graphs. Jotko well above his opponent and trending down while his opponents trend up. You never want to see that. Meerschaert pretty much even with his opponent here. Khamzat pretty much wrecked his graph. He is trending down as well. DraftKings visual recap, so a very huge chunk of real estate for Meerschaert. You absolutely love to see that. Look at this big piece that's missing from Jotko's graph. These are all the finishes that he does not have in the UFC, compared to Meerschaert, who has won every single UFC fight, or every single UFC win by finish. 9 of 9. So if he wins this fight, he could score very well in a submission win, and that's what I'm going to be looking to target here. Give me the sub from Meerschaert. Like I said, Jotko is far too expensive. $533 over his average. $8,800 is a bad salary to play for DraftKings generally, and it did just win 2 weeks in a row before last week. So I'll be off that side. It's just too expensive. Give me the Meerschaert 7,400. Give it to me for salary relief. Give it to me for the pace he puts on, the 95 points he puts up per win, and the possible submission finish. There we go, baby. Speaking of submission finishes, next fight of the night. Man, we are flying through this card. I feel like I've skipped a bunch of fights, but it's just a bunch of, guys that don't have a ton of stats. So now we are getting into it a little bit. Darren Elkins going against Tristan Connelly. Connelly 1-1 in the UFC. We'll start with him. $7,600, 2.73 points per minute. Getting 2.86 scored on him per minute. 83 points when he won, 82 when he lost. So again, we're right down the lane of average points for these fighters here. Nothing standing out. Nobody's getting points scored on him. No one's scoring any points. A lot of low volume scorers this week, it seems like, so far anyways. With the exception of Gina Mazany. Surprisingly. Tristan Connelly, 550 over his average salary on top of all that. Darren the Damage Elkins. If you don't like Darren Elkins, I don't know what to do for you. $8,600, has made the optimal in one of his last two fights. 3.85 points a minute, the fifth highest pace on the entire card, averaging 101.86 when he wins. Guys, this is over 16 UFC wins. Huge sample size, triple digit score in wins, 101.86. Love that upside there. He is $745 over his average salary, which is, it's not great. It's not terrible. Allows 2.49 points a minute and 92 when he wins. So the value and the possible finishing, or the potential of scoring upside for Darren Elkins is pretty big here. And at 8,600, I love that salary. I will have me some of Darren Elkins. I'll also have a bit of Tristan Connelly. I guess just in case, Connelly Cub Swanson's Darren Elkins, which I don't see happening. Both these guys are, majority sub guys, it seems like. Darren Elkins, actually, this is interesting. Only 5 sub wins. He has 9 KO TKO wins. I would have thought he had more sub wins. I guess not. Connelly, unless I typed that in wrong, there's also a possibility. Connelly showing 9 9 professional submission wins. Darren Elkins almost a point and a half, over a point and a half per minute in takedowns and control time. Meanwhile, Tristan Connelly allowing 1.28 points per minute in grappling against. That is a recipe for disaster for Tristan Connelly. That is what I will be targeting when I'm playing DraftKings this week as far as this fight. The takedown and control and submission upside from Darren Elkins. Now, Tristan Connelly is no joke off of his back, though. Like I said, 9 submission wins. He has been subbed once, so, it is possible, but he does know his way around the ground. So we'll just have to see. This is kind of two older guys, 37 and 36 years old, respectively. So lots of experience, professional experience for these. Tons of fights. We got 21 for Connelly and 36 for Elkins, which makes 57 pro fights between them. That is a ton. Darren Elkins' strength of schedule much better than Tristan Connelly's by several points, almost 10 points in one of these categories here. Connelly losing to Pat Sabatini and then Michel Pereira. So no joke, those two opponents there. Darren Elkins lost to Cub Swanson, beat Minner, beat Garagori, lost to Landwehr and Ryan Hall. So we'll have to see what Darren Elkins we get this week. 8,600 is quite a bit now that I think about it for Darren Elkins. Outscoring his opponents by 1.3 some points per minute. Trending up while his opponents trend up at a much higher rate than he is. Still, he is trending up. Tristan Connelly just below his opponents as far as scoring per minute, with him and his opponent both trending up. Here are my projections, a bit higher for Darren Elkins, as you would expect. And then the DraftKings visual recap. Elkins with the graph, better graph just about everywhere except for that distance striking points per win, just about 5 points lower than Tristan Connelly. And here are the fighter aggregate, professional, and UFC career finishing percentages. A bit lower. Professionally, it's 67.5 and 41 in losses. That's decent, but in the UFC, very, very low. Excuse me. I do expect that Computer Monk picked this to finish, to go the distance. So I might be a bit lower on these guys than, I I don't know. I'll probably be a bit higher on Elkins, but you have to play some of Connelly just for that finish upside, I guess. Anything could happen on the ground with these guys as well. But the most likely thing is this goes to decision. Now, if it goes to decision, let's see. Connelly scored 83.29 points in his decision win. Elkins, when he wins by unanimous decision, 101.16. So give me the scoring upside of Elkins here. I'll be playing Elkins in cash and maybe a little bit in GPP. This is definitely more of a cash fight, Elkins versus Connelly. So keep that in mind. Next fight, Grant Dawson. We are at 30 minutes, guys. We're going to be finishing here pretty soon. Grant Dawson, Jared Gordon. Dawson 5-0-1 in the UFC. Gordon 6-3. Gordon is $7,500 this week. 5 points a minute is his pace. Third highest on the card. 106.62 when he wins. Fantastic. Giving up only 2.24 points a minute, but 103.52 when he loses. So not allowing a big pace, but he is getting finished. That's the problem. He's been knocked out TKO'd 3 times in the UFC. That is the big red flag for Jared Gordon, who's also coming in $767 under average salary. Look at these scores. When he won by knockout, on average 134. Unanimous decision wins 107.69. Fantastic scores from Jared Gordon. Grant Dawson, 17-1-1 as a pro, $8,700 this week. 4.03 points per minute, which is a fantastic pace, but almost a whole point lower than Jared Gordon's. Dawson allowing, though, only 1.73, the second best number on the card. 98 when he wins on average, and that is over 5 UFC wins, so just below that triple-digit number that we look for. Also, $133 less than his average salary, so you're getting a deal on both guys. You're not paying up, I should say, for either one of these guys. Dawson, when he won by knockout, 89. When he won by sub, 102. And when he wins by unanimous decision, just under 100 points. He does have 11 sub wins in his pro career, 2 in the UFC. This guy is just a scorer, 2.23 points per minute in grappling. And Jared Gordon is giving up over a half a point per minute grappling on his own. So also scoring a ton of grappling points, 1.67 points a minute. This is just a wrestler's dream fight if you like that kind of thing. I guess I'm gonna be leaning with both these guys have ridiculous pro records, man. I guess I'm just gonna play both sides. I was gonna say I'm leaning Dawson. I might have a bit more of him. Because I love the scoring upside. God, the scoring upside for both guys is phenomenal. This is a big GPP fight. Play both sides. Play it both in cash as well. I'm fine with that. Whoever wins this fight probably is going to finish it and score very well. It would be my guess. Even if they don't, let's see. Oh, yeah, Grant Dawson just went to a draw with Ricky Glenn. That was disappointing. And then the Gordon Joe Selecki fight, also disappointing from a DraftKings perspective, where with Gordon only scoring 74 points. So still, hopefully those low scoring fights are out of the way and we get a decent battle here. I'm going to lean Dawson for the win, but I'm going to have, like I said, both sides. This is a great GPP fight to play. Here are my projections. Great fight for GPP, great fight for cash. I don't have a problem with either one. DraftKings visual recap. Decent graphs for both guys. Dawson, man, if we can, I just think Dawson is so much better than his stats would indicate for the most part. That draw did not help last fight. And here are the aggregate finish percentages. Every fight they've lost has been a finish. And the finish rate in wins much lower in the UFC than outside of it. So give me Grant Dawson for the win. But like I said, you got to play both sides of this one. And the salary disparagement is gigantic in this fight. So I totally understand if you have more Jared Gordon than Grant Dawson. He might be tough to get to at 8,700. Probably not for me. I might kind of, focus in on Grant Dawson, maybe playing about 30, 40, 45% of him. I like that play this week. But like I said, I like both guys to put up possible decent scores. Andrei, touchy, Fili going against Joe Anderson, Brito. Brito coming off a UFC debut loss to, who was it? I think Bill Algeo. $6,900 this week. So far, one of the cheapest fighters on the entire card. Second cheapest, I believe. And actually, that's just because Chase Sherman doesn't have salary yet. So he probably will stay the second cheapest. Only 2.4 points per minute in his UFC debut. Allowed 3.88. So very poor defensive showing in that 15 minutes. I mean, almost 4 points a minute for 15 minutes. Yikes. Gave up 88 points, or allowed 88 points, I should say, in his loss. He is $1,700 under his previous salary. Andrei Fili on the other side. I don't know why these two heights are the same. That is odd, because 5'8" is not the same as 5'11", as you may or may not know. Andrei Fili, 9,300, 3.13 points per minute. Absolutely, not absolutely, a very decent score. Ninth highest on the card, allowing just under that, 2.94 points per minute back at him. Only 91 per win, which is a pretty low score compared to some of the other numbers we've seen from guys that have 8, 9, 10, 11 UFC wins, as Fili has 9. So it's not a great number, 91. I'd be playing Fili more in cash this week, I think. This is not going to be probably not going to be a Tyson Pedro situation, who was 9,300 last week, who I would have bet my entire house on that he would have gotten, a first round finish win, which he did. Turns out I didn't bet my house on it though, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Andrei Fili, I kind of see this one as more of a cash play. I kind of see this one going a bit longer. Brito only been finished twice in his professional career. I think this one goes a bit longer. I'm not expecting a first round finish. I'm expecting more of the 90 points from Fili, and that's not going to make the optimal, guys. At 9,300, that's not even 10x. So I would temper expectations on Fili. I do think he wins this fight. I don't think, I think more often than not, he does not score 100 points in a win. I'll say that. Also, he's $1,227 over his average salary. That is insane. I'm going to have a very hard time paying up for that this week. So Andrei Fili rant over. He does not score very well. I mean, in 5 of 9 wins, he's put up over 90, but only 2 of 9, he's put up over 100, and only 110 once. Does score very well on the ground, over 1.1 points per minute in grappling, but he does allow almost 0.9 points in grappling back at him. That is going to be the one red flag here, why I don't think that Fili is going to finish this early. If he hurts Brito, which is entirely possible, Brito could easily close the distance and try to take this guy down and just hang on for dear life, to not get finished. He could even have some success on the ground as well. I mean, he does score over 1.2 points per minute in grappling. Both these guys scoring on the ground and giving up points on the ground as well. So I like this one, again, for GPPs, 100%. And I like the Fili, so I just don't think Brito's going to win. So obviously, I'm going to have some Brito, and he is very cheap, so he's going to be easy to get to, a bit of salary relief. Fili's just so expensive, I'm not going to be able to get to a ton of him, so I might actually have more Brito rostered than Fili, but I like Fili to win and put up the higher score in a win. That said, I don't think it's going to be high enough to make the optimal lineup. So I feel like I'm babbling just a little bit. Let me keep it moving. Raw DraftKings points per minute. Fili above his opponent, trending down, however, while his opponents trend up. Never want to see that. Here are my projections. Pretty high for Fili in his finished wins. An 85 in a decision is not too bad either. And then the aggregate professional and UFC career finishing percentages, a bit lower than we've seen on average. 2/3 of their wins finishing. Over half of their losses, they've been finished. But then once you get to the UFC, those numbers in both categories drop pretty significantly. So again, I do think this one goes to decision more often than not. Fili most likely being the winner, but I don't think he scores enough to make the optimal. So I will be fading Fili. Nothing against him. He's just too expensive this week. Andrei Arlovski, co-main event, going against Chito Uncle Weezy, Fat Collier. That's what we're calling him this week and every week. Andrei Arlovski, $8,400, guys. Oh, I want to tell you to fade this one. I don't know what's going to happen. I think this one probably goes to decision. I think Arlovski probably wins by decision. Now, I'm not confident in that whatsoever. Collier could also maybe knock. No, there's no way he knocks out Arlovski, right? Arlovski has been finished by KO TKO 7 times in his UFC career, half of his losses, but is Jake Collier really the one that's going to make it 8? I don't know. If you think this one goes to decision, don't roster these guys. Arlovski, 2.23 points per minute. That's it. 87 points in a win. That's it. And he's $729 over his average salary. This is insane. Jake Collier, a much better pace, 3.17 points per minute, 86.62 when he wins. And this is over 5 wins. So both these guys can barely score 87 points when they win. And that's over 27 wins on average. So if that doesn't scream fade for a heavyweight fight, I don't know what does. Collier is allowing 100 points per loss, but Arlovski's points per win are so far below that. I mean, and you are technically paying up for Fat Collier as well, $83 over his average salary, just to rub a little salt on the wound. Let's see here. Collier, when he wins by finish, over 100 points, so pretty good there. Same with Arlovski, but the numbers drop drastically when you look at the decision wins and split decisions as well. In fact, 54% of Arlovski's 22 UFC wins, he has scored over 90. Only 45% of them over 100 and 22% over 110. Meanwhile, Fat Collier only, 2 of 5 UFC fights, he's put up over 100 points. I mean, Collier allowing, over 0.8 points per minute in takedowns, control time, but Arlovski, he's not going to be taking you down at all. Both these guys combined age, 86 years old, 8 months. 86 years old in 8 months. Cool. Strength of schedule, much better for Arlovski, as you would expect. He has beaten Vera, Philippe, Sherman, and Bozer in his past 5, losing to Tom Aspinall. I was gonna try to think of something clever to say about Tom Aspinall. I couldn't do it. He does deserve it though. He's fantastic. Love that guy. Jake Collier, Chase Sherman. He has beaten John Vellante and Marcel Fortuna, with losses to Carlos Philippe, who Arlovski did beat in his 2 fights ago, and also to Tom Aspinall. Collier getting knocked out by Aspinall in less than a minute, and Aspinall subbing Arlovski in the 2nd round. So if that tells you anything there, not too great of numbers for these guys, especially from the offensive side of things. As you would expect, here are the visual statistical recap. Pretty much the same. The average value for Collier is a bit better, and he's scoring in categories a bit better, per win. But the bonus and the finish win percent, which is very low for both guys, is a bit better for Arlovski. Here are the aggregate professional and UFC career finishing percentages: 60, 64, 63% professionally, and then a bit less in the UFC careers. Their losses, though, still about 63%. I tend to think this one goes to decision more often than not. I don't know how this is the co-main event. That said, I don't know what I would put in here. I mean, if I looked, I'm sure I could figure out, something to substitute here. Not excited for this one. 84-78. I mean, if you're a real heavyweight diehard, go ahead and put one of these guys in your roster, hoping that someone gets a finish, but you're overpaying for both guys here. Again, you're paying over $700 for 43-year-old Andrei Arlovski, over 700 more than his average, I should say. And his pace and his score per win is just too low. Guys, these guys don't even touch 90 when they win on average. I'm fading it. If you have to play one, or if you want to, play it in cash. I'm not playing either one of these in GPPs. And guys, we did it. We are on the main event of the evening. 43 minutes. My goodness, I'm either getting better at this, or I'm just, we'll just keep it at that. I'm getting better at it. Main event of the evening. And before we get into that for the last time, guys, please hit the like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well, so you never miss any DraftKings knowledge coming your way before a UFC card. So thank you again for doing that. It is much, much appreciated. I'm almost at 250 subs, and you guys are really helping me out. So let's make that happen before the next pay-per-view, which might be next week. So keep it up. Love it. Main event of the evening, Rob Font going against Chito Vera. Rob Font 9-4 in the UFC. He is $8,300 this week. 3.41 points a minute, 6th best pace on the card, 107 on average when he wins, 107.5 points when he wins. And this is over 9 UFC wins. These are fantastic offensive numbers here. A cash boy's dream, or I'm sorry, GPP boy's dream. He's allowing 2.67 points a minute and only 90 when he loses. Only $50 over his average salary, guys. Average value of 10.08. So he is 10xing average over his wins. Fantastic numbers there. Let's take a look at Chito Vera. Let's see, $7,900. So that's a steal. 327 under his average. A very low pace, 2.66 points per minute, but he does finish occasionally 91.34 points per win. By occasionally, I mean 15 out of 20 wins. So he is out here finishing fights. He has finished 10 of 12 UFC fights. So that is a percentage of 83.33% finish rate in the UFC. Fantastic for Chito Vera. He does allow almost 3 points a minute, but only 73 when he loses. So he's never been finished in his entire career. Font only been finished once, and Vera never been finished at all. So Vera obviously, or sorry, Rob Font obviously has the much better scoring upside. That said, I like Vera to win this. I like him in the dog spot, like a lot. I don't think he's going to score great. I think the Rob Font side is more of a GPP play for me this week. His scoring upside is fantastic. If he wins, this is probably going to be well over 100. Whether it's decision or finish for Rob Font, I think he scores triple digits. That said, I think Vera wins this fight 60% of the time. He's a slow starter, so don't expect much in the first round. Once he gets going, man, and in that later second and third round, I mean, you can't stop. It's very difficult to contain this guy deeper into the fight it gets. And now he's got 5 rounds to make this happen. So does not generally score well in fights, Chito Vera, but he has 5 rounds to do it. So I think if this one does go to decision and he wins, he's also going to put up well over 100 points. But I like Vera more for cash, Font more for GPP. That said, I'll also be playing Vera in GPP for sure. Just not as much. Strength of schedule is fantastic for these guys. I mean, 78% win percentage for Rob Font, fantastic. 77 strength of schedule, and we are right there with Chito Vera. 77, 76, 79. So getting beat everywhere in the strength of schedule category is Marlon Vera, but Rob Font is just barely beating him. So kudos to both guys here. Font losing to Jose Aldo in his last fight, but beating Garbrandt, Moraes, Ricky Simone, and Sergio Pettis. Vera coming off 2 straight wins over Edgar and Grant, losing to Jose Aldo and Song Yadong, and then that first round victory over Sean O'Malley. Just don't tell Sean O'Malley that. Rob Font averaging 3.41 points per minute and trending down, but his opponent also trending down and currently well below his average, almost 0.75 points below Font's average. Vera getting outscored, but he is trending up while his opponents also trend up. So Vera's stats can be misleading. You look at just his stats and you think, oh, this guy's just a run-of-the-mill fighter. This guy's fantastic, and I really think he has a good chance of beating Rob Font, especially the longer this fight goes. Like I said, look for Marlon Vera to really kind of turn it on, halfway through the second, third round, if the fight goes that long. So give me Rob Font for GPPs, give me Vera for cash, and a little bit in GPPs as well. Here's the visual statistical recap. Pretty good graph from both guys, with Vera just poking out a little bit, as we said, in the finish win percentage. But Rob Font, a very decent graph overall. I'm very excited for this fight. Obviously, the fight I'm most excited for on this card. Not just because it's the main event. These guys are absolute bangers. Finishes in wins, very high in their career, 69%. When they got into the UFC, they turned that up. Usually this number is lower than their pro career number. In this case, it is 7 points higher. My goodness. They've only been finished, like we said, in 10%. Their UFC losses, less than that professionally. So honestly, guys, I think this one goes to decision, and I just like the scoring upside of Marlon Vera in a 5-round fight. That's the key, 5-round fight. Because 2.66 points per minute is not a great pace. But if you've got 5 rounds to do something, I mean, hey, and you got to play Rob Font in GPPs, because if he wins, 108 points. What do you, I mean, that's huge. That's 12x at 8,300, I think. Don't test my math on that, but I'm pretty sure it's around 12x. That said, guys, we did it. We went through all 12 fights. Before we wrap this up, let me show you Computer Monk's picks for UFC Vegas 53. Sorry, my bout order is wrong, but we'll just go through it. Romanov by finish if the fight happens. Candelario by decision. Lainesse by decision. Levy by decision. Figgy by decision. Mazany by finish. Fili by decision. Dawson by finish. Jotko by finish. Elkins by decision. Collier by finish. Interesting. And Font by decision. Very interesting. A very close fight, though, that Font Vera. I mean, within 1%, 51 to 49 so far for Computer Monk. So that could easily change. Same with the Jake Collier or Fat Collier and Andrei Arlovski fight. Very, very close as well. So, guys, that is gonna do it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate that. Hit the like, subscribe, and hit the bell as well. Be sure to sub to the MMA Engine, where we are putting out content daily for all things UFC leading up to every UFC card. Check me out tomorrow. I'll be releasing a salary voodoo video on MMA Engine. We have the Pub Sports Radio DraftKings show with me, Wheezy, Brady, and Luke going on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Or sorry, 6 p.m. Central. So check that out. We're going to be giving out our plays, lineups, etc. Catch me on. I also have 2 other videos coming out on Wednesday on this very channel. My 3 picks to play and 3 picks to fade this week. So be on the lookout for those tomorrow. And then Friday on the MMA Engine channel, again, it's Monk and Lou's Happy Hour with my intrepid co-host Lou Betya, and we'll be breaking down all 12 fights from a betting and DraftKings perspective, a little bit more in depth, on the day before fight day. So last time I'll say it, thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope you, pair this with your fight tape, and I hope you will take down some contests this week. And as usual, guys, I want all of you to enjoy the fight. So enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.